Hey guys, welcome to School Studios. It is Raven Wolf, and today we're looking at a deck list called Yo Stuff My Stuff. It is a deck about copying our opponent's decks by basically just taking their stuff. And the commander is Don Andres, the Renegade. And basically what he says is, each creature you control but don't own gets +2/+2 Menace and Death Touch and is a pirate in addition to its other types. When you cast a non-creature spell you don't own, create 2 tapped treasure tokens. And like I said, it is basically just like Kakashi from Naruto, copying what our opponents do by just taking their decks. Right now we're going to go to Planeswalkers. We have Gaadron, Dihada. Protection from permanents with corruption counters on them. Each opponent loses 2 life, you gain 2 life. Put a corruption counter up to 1 other target creature or Planeswalker. Is -3, gain control of target creature or Planeswalker until end of turn, untap it, put a corruption counter on it, it gains haste until end of turn. Gain control of each permanent with a corruption counter on it. Basically, 2 ways to take our opponent's stuff. We have Kaido. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you may return it to its owner's hand. If you do, activate abilities of Kaido twice this turn rather than once. +1 up to 1 target creature can't block or attack until your next turn. 0 is draw a card. -2 is create a 2/2 colorless drone artifact creature with Death Touch, and when this creature leaves the battlefield, each opponent loses 2 life. You gain 2 life. Basically, we care about the +1 and the 0. Drawing a card's good, but also making it where our opponent's things can't block until your next turn is also good. We have Tasha. Whenever you cast a spell you don't own, create a 3/3 demon. Draw a card. For each opponent, exile up to 1 instant sorcery card from their graveyard with a page counter on it. -3, you may cast a spell from among cards in exile with page counters on them without paying its mana cost. Like I said, we want to basically take our opponent's stuff, cast them, do all that type of stuff. We have Tevizat. Is to create a 0/1 black thrall token. +1, sacrifice another creature Planeswalker. If you do, draw 2 cards, then draw another card. If the sacrifice permanent is a commander, gain control of all commanders. Put all commanders from command zone onto battlefield under your control. Basically, we'll be taking our opponent's commanders, hopefully, but mostly it's to make blockers and to have a sack outlet for us to draw cards. On to the creatures! We have Orvenox, the Mind Flail. Basically, we care about, at the beginning of your end step, exile the bottom of each opponent's library face down. For as long as those cards remain exiled, you may look at them, you may cast permanent spells from among them, and you may spend mana as though or any color to cast those spells. So, it's going to be able to do 2 things for our commander, getting creatures our opponents own, and getting the instants and sorceries. Man, is it non-creatures? Hang on. Non-creature spells. So yeah, getting all the non-creatures and creatures, it does everything for our commander. Gives us more tap treasures. We have Captivating Crew, is basically 3 in red. Gain control of target creature and opponent controls. Untap it. It gains haste until end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. Yeah, we can just dump our treasures into it and remove blockers from our opponents, stuff like that. We have Coercive Recruiter. When it or another pirate ends up under your control, gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap it. It gains haste, becomes a pirate in addition to the other types. Until end of turn. Yep. So yeah, it's just an end of turn pirate, but we'll be able to flicker it, do stuff later. Dauthi Voidwalker is to get our opponent's stuff. We have a Dockside, which is to make us treasures. And he's a pirate, so he'll trigger Coercive Recruiter. We have an Elder Brain. When it attacks a player, exile all cards from that player's hand, and then they draw that many cards. You may play lands and cast spells from among the exiled cards, as long as they're exiled. If you cast a spell this way, you may spend mana as over any color to cast it. We have a Tali. On attack trigger, you get the top of each opponent's library, cast them. Evelyn the Covetous. When she or another vampire ends up under your control, exile the top of each player's library with a collection counter. Once each turn, you may play a card from exile with a collection counter on it. If it is exiled with ability you controlled, you may spend mana of any color spent to cast it. So again, it's another way to get our opponent's stuff for our commander. We have Geth, Lord of the Vault. Put target artifact or creature card with mana value X from the opponent's graveyard and battlefield under your control. Then that player mills X cards. This is basically going to be stealing opponents' creatures from the graveyard. We get them. They turn to our pirates that are bigger, better, angrier pirates. And we get to mill our opponent for more stuff in the future. We have Ghoul Caller Gisa. Black. Sacrifice another creature. Create X 2/2 zombies, where X is that creature's power. This is like if we need to sack our opponent's thing so they don't get them back. Make ourselves some blockers. Because we want to really be kind of aggro with this deck, even though we have a little less creatures. But so we can take our opponent's stuff. We have Gisa, Glorious Resurrector. If a creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. And at the beginning of your upkeep, put all creature cards exiled with Gisa, Glorious Resurrector on the battlefield under your control, and they gain Decayed. So we get them for one attack, but we are going to get them. We have Gonti, Lord of Luxury. When there's a battlefield, look at the top 4 cards, target opponent's library, exile one face down, and put the rest of them in any order, random order. You may look at it and cast it as long as it remains exiled. And all the other stuff. We have Grima, Saruman's Footman. Basically, he's going to be exiled top of our opponent's stuff. Can't be blocked. Look. Chiller Instance. Yeah, so we're getting instant sorcerers for our opponent's stuff. We have a Hostage Taker. Enter battlefield. Exile target artifact or creature. You may cast that card as long as it remains exiled. And mana of any type to cast that spell. This will let us not blink, but it'll let us get our things back if we want to get ETB triggers or to get our opponent's stuff, which will in turn trigger our commander. We have Ink Eyes. So if we're getting like rid of an opponent's thing, we take control of it and attack with it, and they don't block their own thing, we can ninjutsu in Ink Eyes, get a creature from their graveyard, and they can just get a creature back. They're not going to have it back on their board. So I think Ink Eyes is a really, really good card. I think it's underrated. Intellect Devourer. When there's a battlefield, each opponent exile card from their hands until it leaves the battlefield. You may play lands, cast spells from the exiled cards. Again, it's another ETB trigger that we're going to abuse with blinking later, or just graveyard recursion. Next is a Keeper Secrets. When you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hands, deals damage equal to spell's mana value to target opponent. Basically, we're going to be burning our opponent for what we cast of theirs. Marchesa the Black Rose. Other creatures you control have dethroned. When a creature you control, the one counter on it dies, return it to the battlefield under your control, being the next instep. Basically, if we're under the most life total, we can hit that opponent, swarm at them, try and bring them back down to our level. If they block everything, we're going to get it all back anyway, and hopefully have ETB abilities. Nightveil Spectre. With the lowest combat damage to a player, the player exiles top card of his or her library. You may play cards exiled with Nightveil Spectre. And the problem with this card is, though, you need this out to play the cards that were previously exiled with it, and it can't leave the field, or those cards will be exiled forever and you can't touch them. So there is a downside to Nightveil Spectre. Next, we have Opposition Agent. This will stop our opponents from searching, but another good thing about it is if they're trying to search and then we Opposition Agent, we can at least take that thing. So Rakshasa Debaser. This will take our opponent's stuff. We'll get their creatures from their field. Turgid. So if our opponents sack a thing or discard a thing, a permanent, we're going to get it. So hopefully we'll get their creatures and they become part of our army. Thassa Deep Dwelling. This is for the stuff they take that they would normally get back at end of turn. We're going to blink it and keep it. Or if we're going to blink our things that have awesome ETB abilities, we'll do that. Thieving Amalgam. Being each opponent's upkeep, we take the top card of the library, we turn it into our creature. Here's the thing with that. With Manifest, because they technically own it, but it's a creature on our field, it's automatically going to get buffed by our commander and have Death Touch and Menace. So, and become a pirate. So Thieving Amalgam just goes really, really good with our commander. And whenever a creature you control but don't own dies, its owner loses 2 life, you gain 2 life. Again, just a really, really awesome card for our commander. Xanathar Kingpin. Being of your upkeep, choose target opponent until end of turn. That player can't cast spells. You may look at the top card of their library. Anytime, you may play the top card of their library, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast spells this way. Basically, we're going to be just casting our opponent's deck. Next, we have Zorn, because when we cast non-creature spells, we're going to at least get 2 treasures. Well, now we're going to get 3. So that 1 extra will hopefully give us a little something. Zara, on attack, we look at their hands, put a creature card on battlefield tapped, and attacking that player or planeswalker they control, and you return it to its hand at the beginning of the next end step. Well, with Thassa, we're going to blink it, but this at least will get us another attacker that gets buffed for our thing. Zealous Conscripts, ETB, take one of their things. We're going to blink it. It's fine. Alright, next, we're going to go up to Bribery. Choose any number of target creature and planeswalker cards and graveyards. Basically, we're going to pay life to get them. And this isn't until end of turn. And Bribery is we basically get a creature from their deck. Dredge the Mire. For 4 mana, I think this card is really underappreciated. Each opponent basically gives us a thing that will automatically become a pirate. +2/+2. Menace and Death Touch. Fevered Suspicion. It's a little expensive at 8 mana, but each opponent will exile till they hit an on-land card. You may cast it without paying their mana cost, and it has Rebound. Ghastly Conscription. We're going to target 1 opponent, get all creatures from their graveyard, put them face down on our field. They're basically going to be 4/4s Menace, Death Touch that we can morph them. Insurrection is a win con for us. Untap all creatures, gain control of them until end of turn. They gain haste until end of turn. Yeah, this is, again, 8 mana is kind of expensive, but it is a win con. Because our opponents won't have blockers. We're going to have a Praetor's Grasp. This one will basically get something from our opponent's deck. Anything we want, we get it. So we can take one of their key piece creatures, put it on our board. Psychic Intrusion. Basically get something from an opponent's hands, and we get it to cast it. It's a little expensive for 5 mana. I would take it out, personally, for something, but 5 mana, it's still pretty good. Rise of the Dark Realms. We get all creatures back, including our opponents. Spreading Insurrection. Storm. So if we've gotten, like, a little bunch of little things out, and with our extra treasures, we cast this. Cool, we're going to get more copies of it. Stolen Goods. Basically, it's going to be like Fevered Suspicion, but only for 1 opponent. And it's not each, but still pretty good. We have Grim Return. So, Grim Return was a card that when it came out in M14, I really, really loved it because choose a target creature in a graveyard that was put there from the battlefield this turn. Put that card on the battlefield under your control. Anything. Doesn't have to be ours. Could be any of our opponent's creatures that if they're in the graveyard and they were put there this turn, we get it. Siphon Insight. Look at the top 2 cards of target opponent's library. Exile one of them face down, put the other on the bottom of their library. You may look and play the exiled card as long as it's exiled, and it has flashback. So we're getting 2 things with this that I think is pretty good. especially if they Worldly Tutor or something like that. We can Siphon Insight and get it. We have a Arcane Signet, which is a mana rock, Ashnod's Altar to sack our opponent's things or to sack creatures. Chaos Wand is to get our opponent's instants and sorceries, and with our commander, it'll make us 2 treasures. Chromatic Lantern is mana fixing. Conjurer's Closet is to flicker something. Dimir Signet. Nautiloid Chip. In his battlefield, exile target player's graveyard. When it deals combat damage to a player, you may put a card exiled with it on the battlefield under your control. Easily, we can blink this to exile another player's library or graveyard, and it gets us a creature on damage. So, yeah, I think it's a pretty good card. Rakdos Signet. Realm Breaker is to get our opponent's lands from their deck and mill them. So it's going to kind of ramp us permanently by getting their lands. The Belligerent, we can crew it, attack it, we get a treasure token, and then we get to look at our deck and cast it. Plus, we have a Pirate. The Deck of Many Things. This is a card, basically return a card at random from your graveyard to your hand, so it's recursion. 10 to 20, we're going to draw 2 cards. And 20 is put a creature card from any graveyard on the battlefield under your control. When that creature dies, its owner loses the game. Basically, we can only do this though if we have no cards in hand. But still really good, because even anything, we can at least draw 2 cards. Wand of Wonder will basically get our opponent's instants and sorceries, so we'll make 2 treasures. So yeah, this is just going to be a plus for us. Enchantments, we have Arcane Bombardment. When we cast our instant sorceries, and they don't have to be ours, they can be our opponent's, we get to copy one from random from Arcane Bombardment. So yeah, we're going to be doing more of that to kind of recycle our instants and sorceries. We have Cunning Rhetoric. Basically, this is when our opponent attacks us, we can at least exile their stuff and get it. Curse of Unbinding. Basically, it's going to be like Arvanox, stuff like that, being of enchanted player's upkeep. The player reveal cards from the top of the library until they reveal creature card, put it on the battlefield under your control. That player puts the rest of the reveal cards into their graveyard. Yeah, basically on their every single one of the enchanted player's turn, we're going to get one of their stuff. Dictate Arrows and Grave Pact is to basically, if one of our stuff dies, even if they own it, we still make them sack things. And with Turgid, we're going to get their stuff back. So yeah. Passionate Archaeologist, when we cast our opponent's stuff from exile, or our stuff, we deal that spell's mana value to target opponent, as long as we control our commander. So yeah, we're going to burn them. Rogue Class, whenever a creature we control deals combat damage to a player, exile a top card of the player's library face down. You may look at it for as long as it's exiled. Level it up, creatures you control have menace. Level 3, we can now play those cards that are exiled with Rogue Class. So it's a little bit of build up. If we have extra mana, we can just dump it into Rogue Class. Stolen Strategy, being of your upkeep, we exile a top card of each opponent's library, and until end of turn, you may play those cards for as long as they're exiled. Basically, every turn, we're going to get something that we can play for that turn. Then we have the Horus Heresy, which will, Chapter 1, for each opponent, gain control 1 non-legendary creature that player controls for as long as Horus Heresy is on the battlefield. Draw a card for each creature you control but don't own. Starting with you, each player chooses a creature, destroy each creature chosen this way. Pseudo board wipe, we get their stuff. Now, I haven't put lands in here yet, so what I'm going to do to kind of test out the deck with a handicap. Island, mountain, swamp. We're going to go ahead, we're going to upgrade them to 12 each, so that we will have 36 lands. And let's go playtest. And we're going to restart. Alright, so automatically we have access to blue-black. So say we go first. So we draw. Automatically I'm going to put down a mountain. We'll pass. Go around islands. Dimir Signet. So we're going to be ramping. Next turn, 4 mana. We'll cast our commander. Boom. Next turn. We have the correct mana. So it becomes down to Wand of Wonder or Intellect Devour. And fortunately with this deck you can't fully do it. So we'd say, alright, cool, I'm going to go ahead, put down an island. Now, I'll put down a mountain, so we have our double red in case next turn. And we'll put down Wand of Wonder. And on our next turn, if we don't have anything we really want, we can do Wand of Wonder, get their thing. We make 2 treasure tokens. That are tapped. And with those tapped treasure tokens, basically on our next turn, easily we fixed it. We can do Thieving Amalgam to start making our opponents more things that will be 4/4s. So yeah, this is turn 5 or 6. We're automatically popping off and we have an engine. Which I think around turn 5 or 6 in casual play, this deck should be okay, because you're not really doing anything for the first 5 or 6 turns. You're going to try to be building us stuff up. Like, you can do Intellect as removal. We can also do Night Veil Spectre if we wanted to. There's a bunch of stuff we can do. And if we get, there's too many board wipes among that. We have this, that, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana. We need 1 more mana, which with this, we pay 4 mana into it. We're going to get 2 treasures on our next turn. So yeah, let's go ahead and restart, see what our normal hand would look like. Not the best, but we'll go ahead and start with a swamp. Oh yeah, we have to draw. Let's go ahead, we'll start with a swamp. Next turn, that's 5 mana. We'll start with an island. Boom. So this. Next turn, we'll do our commander in this. And boom, next turn, oh my gosh, we have 5 mana. We could easily do Conjurer's Closet. We could do Grima, Corrosive Recruiter. If we wanted to, we could also Praetor's Grasp to get a thing, to get like one of their 2-drops if we wanted to get a Menace Death Touch blocker. Or we can get one of their 2-drop spells. It's a ramp spell. It makes us 2 treasures. So yeah, because we're trying to do stuff with our opponent's deck, we're very versatile. But this deck is very mid-range. Is a mid-range type of deck. Late game, if we are not stopping our opponents, we're pretty much screwed. Like, we have some late game strategies with Rise of the Dark Realms, Ghastly Conscripts, stuff like that in Insurrection. But really, this deck is a mid-range deck, I would say. But yeah, guys, I would say check it out. Tell me what y'all think, and I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.